So I'm back with one of my favorite laptops that I covered last year. However, it's fixed a major problem. Well, I thought it was kind of major, and so did a lot of us, is that the previous model only had a 60 Hz screen. So it's now 120 Hz. This is an OLED screen again. It's a brilliant panel, supports touch up to 1600 nits for the peak brightness. The resolution is 3840 by 2400, so it's just over 4K resolution, so great for video editing, incredibly sharp, and now with that 120 Hz refresh rate, no complaints from me. Backlit keyboard, really nice build that we've seen before with the previous model, and it only weighs 1.95 kilos, and you can configure this with up to the RTX 5090, which my model has here. I've got 4 terabytes in total of storage, over 2 SSDs, and 64 gigabytes of RAM. And what is powering it is the Ryzen AI HX 370. I've tested this chip before from AMD. It's very good, 12 cores, 24 threads. This laptop has now become my new favorite. If you're a creator, this is absolutely perfect for video editing, photo editing, as you'll find out in this review. So what is included with the ProArt P16? Well, we have this, which is a user manual. You get a warranty card, and this little card here about MyASUS software. We have our cable, so the AC cable, and the power supply for 240 watts. It's a very good size, you can see. They've made it as compact as possible. The laptop weighs 1.95 kilos, well, according to my scales, almost 1.96, but that is fantastic considering it's 16 inches and that super powerful hardware it's packing, especially that RTX 5090. So with the power supply and the cable, this is going to be our total travel weight, which is then 2.67 kilos. Again, I still think that is acceptable. It's no Ultrabook, but look at the power you have within this. It still is very portable. Compared to last year's model, it does look very similar. So we have this matte finish to it, this dark gray, looks great. It shows fingerprints, a few of them, but smudges I have noticed aren't as bad as what can happen with some laptops. Are very susceptible to that. And this one is, I would rate as a medium. You're still going to see some smudges and things happen. So we have the ProArt branding right here, ASUS ProArt. And when you open this up, yes, you can open it with just one hand. Hinge feels great. It just screams quality, this laptop. It is really fantastic. So we have the dial pad again. So this is very good for videos. You can use this in Photoshop. So with the Adobe suite, it's going to work really well. You can also use this for media controls. And then we have shortcuts with the touchpad as well. It's an enormous touchpad for a Windows laptop. It does remind me a little bit, yes, I'll say it, like the MacBook size ones. It's very, very big and it's great. It goes right up almost to the absolute edge. There's a tiny little bit there, you can see it's just about a millimeter or two there. Now, palm rest is made out of alloy, the same paint finish to it, and I've been using it a lot, so there's a few little smudges about, but overall not too bad. Backlit keyboard, as you can see, so we have various different stages of that. So if you hold the function key down, in fact, I've got it set without that, so you can control that different brightness. So there's 1, 2, 3, and that's it, and off. So 3 different stages to that. It's a really good, nice, even lit backlit keyboard, and when you're sitting at a table and looking at those keys, it's not blasting from under the keys and being a bit of an irritant or anything like that. No, it is really good. Flex, so pressing down here, I'm not noticing any flex. Good feedback, and they are quiet keys too. They're not really loud clicky type ones, which would be annoying. Now you notice that my layout probably looks strange to most people. It's because I do have the localized Spanish version here. And notice there is no big ASUS logo at the bottom that's reflecting at us. There is a ASUS ProArt there, and it's quite discreet. Again, I like this. I like that you can barely see it. You don't have anything reflecting right at you. It's hard for me to even show it. Just shows up there faintly. You kind of need to get a bit of a reflection on it to see that. And I like this. Now, the power button, you can see, is separated away from where the delete key is, so there's no accidental pressing of that. This area at the top here can sometimes get a little bit hot, I have noticed, when you're pushing it really hard, considering the hardware that's within, how thin it is, kind of makes sense to me. And the thickness, you're probably wondering, well, just how thick it is? Well, 1.83 centimeters, which is very good. We have a vapor chamber inside this, cooling those internals, and it does use liquid metal as well. Now, speakers, there are 6 in total. There will be a sample later in this review, but absolutely top level keyboard touchpad combination.
I really do love it. Another thing I love, which I think is essential for a creator laptop, is a full-size SD card reader and some Type A ports, so they're not locking us just into Type Cs that I know some brands do. Now this is SD Express, so it's very fast. It's a 7.0 card reader, and then we have Type C. Now this one here is a Type C that is USB 3.2 Gen 2. The one on the other side is USB 4 at 40 gigabytes, and both of these do support power delivery, and they do support video out, which is excellent. Then a 10 gigabit per second Type A. Flipping around to the left side, you'll see we've got a 3.5 millimeter audio jack. Another thing that I do believe is essential on a creative focused laptop, so good to have that. Another Type A port. There's that Type C, that's the 40 gigabits. HDMI 2.1, so it's going to support 8K and 4K at 120 Hertz, and then the DC in there to power it. And as I mentioned before, the thickness, so that's very good at that 1.83 centimeters. Considering the hardware that's in this, I don't know how they managed to get it so slim. Along the back, there are some status LEDs. Now, these are normally missing on laptops. I do like to have this, and we do have an antenna here, the aerial. So Wi-Fi 7 on board with this. I found the signal strength and coverage to be absolutely fantastic. No dropouts either. It's been working really well. And at the front, there is nothing. No status LEDs or ports or anything. On the bottom, we have these two solid rubber feet, so lifting it up to give us really good airflow. You can see plenty of vents here. I've noticed the underside seems to be more prone to the fingerprints. There must be a special coating on the top part portion because it doesn't seem to show up as bad as this. So you can see where some of the speaker vents here, we've got the two intake fans. There is a dust filter, so you can easily go along and just vacuum that off or use a light blower on there to clean it. And my spec is the top spec here, so 64 gigabytes of RAM at the 7500 mega transfers. That's LPDDR5X RAM. I have the Radeon AI 9HX 370, as I mentioned there in the intro, and the RTX 5090. Now this is one that goes up to 105 watts, but with that dynamic boost, it's actually 130 watts is the maximum that can put out that GPU. And the battery in this, it's of a very decent capacity. This is 90 watt hours. It's a 4-cell lithium polymer battery. Now last year's model, it was fantastic, really good screen, but it had one big weakness. It was only 60 Hertz the refresh rate. Thankfully, ASUS, they did hear all that feedback, and we knew they would. It now has a 120 Hertz variable refresh rate OLED, and this is a stunning screen. Probably the best display I have ever seen in a laptop. No, it's in fact the best screen I've ever used. So 16:10 aspect ratio, the resolution is just over 4K, and yes, it does support touch, which really works well. It's accurate. You don't really see a funny pattern on the screen from the touch digitizer unless you were to look really, really closely and maybe break out a magnifying glass. At normal viewing distances, you don't see anything like that. It's crystal clear. OLED HDR support with it, up to 1600 nits. I'm measuring just over 490 nits with my Spider X. You'll see here, and I'll show you the results of that shortly. And the touch accuracy with this panel, it's all working really well. So the resolution on this is 3840 by 2400. And the resolution, as you can gather, at 16 inches, it looks really sharp, and it's going to be perfect for video editing, which I will get onto later in the review. So it's got a 0.2 millisecond response time, and it is a VISA certified display HDR True Blacks, and that is HDR True Black 1000. So it is, I think, the best I've ever come across and used in a display, and absolutely perfect for a creative focused video editor, Photoshop, photo editor laptop. You're going to absolutely love this screen. So that screen is fully laminated. There's no ugly air gap between the OLED and then the digitizer glass in front. But look at this color gamut coverage here. It's absolutely fantastic. So P3, 100%, Adobe RGB, 96%. That's the big one there for me. And NTSC is 94%. And sRGB, 100%, which is not difficult. But that Adobe and P3 result is fantastic. So it is a really good display. Can't stress this enough. Perfect for creators. And now with 120 Hertz variable refresh rate, that is great. We no longer have that 60 Hertz cap we had on the previous generation. So this is our webcam, 1080p. Now the microphones, I have it set to the AI noise reduction off. So we're listening to just what it's like If you wanted to record with a camera, ASUS is more recommended. But if you're in, say, a conference call situation, you're probably actually better to turn that on when you have a more noisier environment. I noticed that skin tones, or at least the white balance, seems to be a little bit warm here. You get the status LED with it, but overall good webcam and excellent microphones in the ProArt P16. So my version here, which is the local Spanish version, comes with Windows 11 Home. I was expecting a machine like this for creators, for professional use, to come with Windows 11 Pro, and especially its price point, but it doesn't here. Now, this could vary from region. I'm expecting maybe that other regions may have Windows 11 Pro with this. So you can see that the swappable graphics here, so it'll switch over, depends on really what profile you've got set, and if you're on the power or battery, it'll swap over to the integrated graphics, which is the Radeon 890M, which is fine for integrated graphics. You get the extended battery life on that, which will be around 8 to 10 hours, depending on really what you're doing. And then you have the RTX 5090. So this has 18,024 tops when it comes to AI, and the chipset an additional 50 tops. And we get with this Ryzen AI 9 HX 370, 12 cores, 24 threads, and a maximum turbo of 5.1 gigahertz. So it's a potent chipset. And you'll see that the networking here, so the Wi-Fi 7 I mentioned before, that's from MediaTek. And we do have Windows Hello. So it is brilliant that we do have 4 terabytes of storage that I've got with this configuration. However, I noticed that the drive, the second PCIe slot, is not PCIe 4.0 times 4. It is in fact 4.0 times 2. And this is the result. So the Windows boot drive, the fast one you can see here, that's good. Those are very good speeds for PCIe 4.0. That second drive, however, that's slow for PCIe 4.0 because it's only running with the 2 lanes there 2 times. So that's a minor little disappointment there from me. A little nitpick there. I really wish this was full speed as well. So both the drives were blazing fast. But just to say this, that it's very potent. It's fast. I mean, single core score here in Geekbench 6.3 is almost 3,000 and 15,000 for multi-core score. This is impressive performance. And if we had the Intels, they would produce a similar result, perhaps slightly higher single core score because they tend to be clocked up a little bit higher there. But overall, really impressed with that. Now, the GPU, RTX 5090. This is a powerhouse. It really is. The VRAM, we've got 24 gigabytes worth. It's DDR7. And the GPU score here for time spy, lower than expected. But then again, we have to remember that this is a Max-Q version of this chipset. So it's in a small, thin chassis. And I did expect the performance to be a lot lower than a gaming laptop, which would be thick, heavy, a lot of fan noise, and generating more heat. And they have 175 watts TDP, right up to that. We're only at 130 watts here, and it's lower clocked. So there's that as well too. They tend to clock down the RAM, and the boost clock will be a bit lower. So that's why we're seeing 18,400 almost. And if you had a gaming laptop with the same chipset, you could see scores of around about 23,000, 22,000. So we are missing out a bit of performance there. CPU scores excellent. And another synthetic benchmark that people do like to run is Steel Nomad here again with 3D Mark, and underperforming for an RTX 5090 for a laptop. But then when you factor in, it's the Max-Q version, so it's fine. And this is really focused on, of course, video editors, professionals, photography, editing, Photoshop, all that sort of stuff, which I will get onto shortly. So it's not a gaming laptop. It's still an absolute monster. It is very powerful, this laptop. Another area where our ProArt P16 does excel, and that is the audio. The speakers in this are fantastic. We've got 2 tweeters and 4 subs, so as you can imagine, it delivers good bass, but we get those highs. Mids are covered as well. Dolby Atmos support, Harman Kardon as well. So we got it all there. And with this sample, I've set the speakers to 90%, and you'll hear from the sample that it puts out decent bass, and you can also hear those highs, and just overall, excellent sounding speakers that match and pair up perfectly with the display and the whole experience of this laptop being top end.
So you might have seen this in my other ASUS laptop reviews. I do go over the included software and what you get with MyASUS, which is the software that runs the whole system. You get your system updates. It is useful. It's not bloatware. Some brands, I find their software to be bloatware. The first thing I want to do is go and uninstall it. There is no McAfee antivirus, which is, I consider as bloat. That's not included. Here you'll find information about the battery. You've got just a little bit on the system loads and memory use and warranty, which is very important. You can upgrade that warranty to as well. You've got Screen Expert, which I've covered in other videos too before. And you have device settings, very important. Now I'll go through this quickly. If there's anything important in here, maybe just pause the video if you want to check on that. But I'll go over what I think is the more essential stuff. So battery care, you can limit the charge to 80% to prolong the battery. This is a very good option to have. And there's still a few brands out there that don't even bother with that. And we have our operating modes here, performance. Now I'm in the performance mode. You can also use a function, I believe it is F, shortcut, function F. Let me just test that. Yes. So we have a whisper mode, the standard mode, and in a performance mode, which I prefer to run. So it's going to give absolute maximum performance, but the trade-off is thermals and fan noise, and I'll talk about that again too later in the video. So that's useful, the GPU mode, so you can put it into an eco mode. It's going to disable it. So this is what you want to use if you're going to be on the battery all day. Trying to prolong your battery use or optimized, and you can have it on standard too, which I am currently. You've got Hibernator Helper, and you can even change the allocated memory for the integrated graphics. I would not touch this at all. In fact, you probably want to put this on the minimum. We are running an RTX 5090. If you're going to be using that, you probably are. That's why you're buying this. So I wouldn't really touch that. Other settings here for the microphone and the noise cancellation, AI noise cancellation, and the different sound modes, which is basically like an equalizer for those. Very powerful 6 speakers, volume booster if you needed that, and the OLED care stuff. Also handy, like automatically hiding the taskbar. I do recommend that if you're running, and this is an OLED screen, you really probably want to have that on. And OLED flicker-free dimming. There's a few other settings, but that's really about the essential kind of stuff there. I won't go into the rest of it. And the important one is we have system updates. There's been a firmware update already. They push through driver updates. So it is handy software to have, and you can use the support tool with this for contacting them if you happen to have any issues. And StoryCube, so we've seen this before, but they've partnered up with GoPro. In fact, I've been testing out and using a Max 2 that shoots 360 footage, but in 8K, so super high resolution. And I've been testing it out for some of my e-bike reviews, and it's very good for that. You can see some of my clips right here, and you'll see some of that footage is going to be in my next up-and-coming e-bike videos. But the good thing about StoryCube is here, well, you get the prescription included buying this laptop for the GoPro Cloud. So you can go and access all your videos there and upload them and save them to the cloud. But with StoryCube, this uses AI to categorize and find people's faces as well. So it makes it easy to find the footage you want. So imagine you went on a big trip, you recorded footage, surfing, hiking. You can see it all in here, but it's very difficult to find, right? Well, I can just go along in here now and type, let's go for surfing, okay? And see how it's going to discover all of that footage that I have added. The AI goes through processing it all. And you can see, just like that, I can bring up all of the sample footage here that I have of people surfing, and even a video. There's a video right there at the top too. And the AI has seen that. It's seen the waves, it's seen the surfboard, so it knows straight away, okay, that's surfing. So pretty handy software, and you've got access to that, which I think is great. As you can see, there's the people there in the different categories. So far, it's still processing some of the other files that I've been giving it, and you can add your own local storage there. You can also add to it, so the inclusion now of the GoPro, having the media library, the cloud, the premium service, but you've got OneDrive, your own personal files, and others, so local too. So I've got this one right here that has sample footage, and then my own stuff. So this is a creator laptop, the ProArt P16, aimed at video editors like myself. I'm going to be editing, of course, a lot of video for my channel, and the performance of the ProArt P16, I mean, this is an 8K clip. The whole timeline is an 8K, and yes, I have it to quarter playback here because it's such a high resolution. I don't need it to be at full, and you can see this is smooth. This is all footage from an 8K drone that I took down to New Zealand to get these amazing shots. It's one of my favorite videos. And the timeline here, really smooth. As you can see, I move ahead. Everything's in 8K, including these shots here where I'm behind the camera. It's all 8K. And moving about, this performance is so good. And look at that smooth playback. So impressive performance for editing videos out there for professionals. Now, I'm not doing a lot of color grading or anything like that. Most of the footage I'm showing directly just straight out of the drone. So I didn't need to grade any of it. And it's handling that fine. Now, exporting at 8K resolution is going to be a lot longer than expected. But I'll go to one of my 4K test files now for this. Now, I do have selected here for the preset. It's the YouTube 4K preset. Now, I'm only covering here a minute of footage just to give you an idea of just how blazing fast this is. It's incredibly quick with the RTX 5090, with all that power, the CUDA cores it does have. It's boosting this video encoding to just crazy fast rates here, as you'll see. So it's, as I mentioned, it's that YouTube preset. So start and export, and this is going to be all over really in a matter of seconds. In fact, I don't think I'm going to be able to get this up quick enough. You see, it's going to be done in probably about 20 seconds all up, maybe even under that. So this is really quick for 1 minute of footage. Okay, now factoring in my delay, that's probably around about 19 seconds. So this is blazing fast, as you'd imagine, accelerating my export times here using, it looks like it uses the integrated graphics, but also the GPU. So it is using both here, Adobe Premiere Pro, to help boost those speeds, but I still think with Intel QuickSync it would be a bit faster. Over to gaming performance now. So RTX 5090, we're expecting some pretty good results here, but again, remember, it's the Max Q version, so it's limited to a top boost of 130 watts, so not 175 like the gaming laptops. So I have here, this is Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I've got it set to the highest setting for the graphics preset, and it is at the native screen resolution. See if it could game at that resolution. Even though this is not the latest Assassin's Creed game, it's still using the same engine, and it is very demanding. You can see that from the frame rate here. It's been reflected, showing that performance is a little bit all over the place there. But as long as I get an average of at least over 60, then I would consider that as playable on the highest settings at, well, what is over 4K. Now the temps you can see are getting up there. The GPU is at 82 degrees Celsius and the CPU at 89 degrees Celsius. So that in-game benchmark gave us 67 frames per second average, so that is playable. It can handle 4K gaming. And finally, one little last gaming test. This is not a gaming laptop, so it isn't the focus, but I did want to run the Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark, in-game benchmark. And I have this set to 1600p and the highest visual setting. Okay, so that result is 119 average frames per second at 1600p. So that's brilliant. That's matching our 120 hertz refresh rate. So great. And remember, we have a variable refresh rate with this laptop too as well. Onto the thermals now of our ProArt 16, and it's not too bad, but you'll see that when I scroll down here that the CPU has reached the Ryzen AI 9 HX 370, 93 degrees, and did that trigger thermal throttling? Well, if we scroll down here a little bit, it doesn't actually state that it has triggered thermal throttling, but it probably would have. I mean, this is quite a thin laptop, yet very powerful. Here's a sample now of what it's like under full load. It's a little bit loud, but it's not quite as loud as a gaming laptop. And yes, above the keyboard, it can get quite hot too when gaming. But here's that sample.
So there's so much to like about the ProArt P16. The screen is fantastic. It's a stunning display, and it's touch and the best I've ever covered, as you probably gathered from this review when I looked at that display. I mean, I have nothing negative to say about this display. It is really good. Backlit keyboard, very good. Touch panel's great. The build quality, excellent. Plenty of ports and options there. Great to have the USB 4, 40 gigabits per second, HDMI 2.1. I've got a minor complaint with the SSDs, that they could be faster. I think those speeds are being affected by a BitLocker, but they haven't used like the absolute top spec speed of SSD I feel in this. Now, this is an expensive laptop aimed at creators, aimed for professionals that want really the best for video editing, photo editing, and you can configure it like my configuration up to RTX 5090, which is absolutely fantastic. So amazing performance, but it is a 130 watt version of that GPU. So don't expect it to be like the gaming laptops. As I've seen with the gaming performance and the synthetic benchmarks that I did show, the 3D performance from this RTX 5090 is below, of course, the 175 watt TDP versions of the same GPU. It's also clocked lower, the memory and the core clocks and the boost. And you do see that. It is, after all, in quite a thin package here, and it makes sense that they can't run the full-blown gaming laptop version. And besides, it's not a gaming laptop. So that's one of the very minor little disappointing things there. So some further information to add. Linux, I tried to run on this, Linux Mint. I ran into issues with the touchscreen not working, and then the switchable graphics. I really don't know how that's going to work. It just seemed too much of a headache to run Linux on this. You are going to need a lot of patience and to hunt around, find drivers, fixes, and all of that, which I just can't go into. Battery life, so if you're running off the Radeon, the 890M, you can get around about 8 hours if your screen brightness is at 30%. It is a high resolution display. It is very bright too as well, so it's more demanding. But if you turn on that RTX 5090, you decide to use that with demanding work, but on the battery, then it's only about 2 hours, 2.5, because it's like powering a V8, but only having a fuel tank that's for a Honda Civic is the best way to describe it when you've got the dedicated graphics on there. So if you need the battery life, it is there for all day working, but you really do want to have this plugged in for the maximum performance. Of course, that all kind of makes sense. Overall, fantastic laptop, fan noise. Yes, when it's working hard, gaming especially, or when you're exporting a video, you are going to hear it, as I pointed out from my sample. But I'm glad that ASUS has listened to that feedback about the display, the 60 Hz from before. They improved that. They've added now a much better GPU. So it really is, I think, the best for creators out there, for video editors especially. If you want a Windows machine that pretty much ticks all boxes, including an SD card slot and a touch screen, this is it. The ProArt P16. Thanks a lot for watching this review.